Okay, just stick with me. I've got a good one for you.
Don't start it, man. I'm not ready. Oh, this is gonna suck. This video is gonna be great. We're gonna get to the Discus in just a sec, but before I tell you why I'll never have a Discus tank, you should probably understand where I'm coming from. And to do that, you'll need to see a few of my main display tanks. Okay, so these are my big tanks right now. I have my 180-gallon, more mild cichlid tank with that big driftwood branch I found down by the river, along with the standing logs which came from Aqua Decor. Here's Alcatraz, my 240-gallon, 8-foot-long African cichlid tank. And if you've been keeping up on this one, you probably know that this aquarium has unfortunately contracted a viral disease called lymphocystis. It causes these wart-like bumps on the fish that aren't supposed to be a death sentence, but in my experience, they eventually kill your fish. No way around it. And there's no cure. The only way to clear it from the tank is to kill every fish in the tank and sterilize the entire setup, which I'm not going to do. So I won't be adding any more fish in it until A, this disease miraculously disappears, or B, everyone in the aquarium dies from it. Sad, because I love all these guys in the setup, but I don't know what else to do. On a more auspicious note, San Quentin, my 435-gallon, 10-foot-long American cichlid tank, has no diseases at all, and all the inmates are doing great. Percy, the wild Colombian Oscar, has become my new favorite fish by far, and he is my first Oscar I've ever had. So now I fully understand why people love him so much. Just a great fish with a ton of character. I have more tanks as well, but some viewers really want to see me get a Discus tank. In case you don't know, Discus are very tranquil cichlids. I was going to say peaceful, but they're still cichlids, and if you know anything at all about cichlids, you know that none of them are actually peaceful. They're all evil bastards that deserve to be in high security prisons, which is why I named my tanks after penitentiaries. Discus are just considered peaceful compared to other cichlids, and this is what Discus look like. But they don't all have the same colors and patterns as these. The ones I'm showing you here from Discus.com are the 4 wild strains that are found in the waters of the Amazon River Basin in South America. These are fairly cool looking, but they've been put to shame by the mutant hybrids that selective breeding has created. In fact, there are actually more than 200 strains of them now with their own unique characteristics. Just look at all the ones I found here on Discus.com. They're almost fake looking, they're so gorgeous. Like, did ChatGPT make these up? No, they're real. And if you had to pick a favorite, I think it'd take like all day because they're just all so stunning. Lots of variety. So if these Discus are so beautiful, then why do they suck so bad? Well, I'm going to tell you why I'll never have a Discus tank, even though I used to want one. In 2 parts.
We're both lost at a day.
These fish have a bad reputation for being extremely finicky about everything and really hard to keep. Remember, I don't have Discus and I've never had them, so I'm going by what I've learned by researching these fish and my experiences watching them in tanks that aren't mine. But I want to let you know why I don't have any desire to have them at all. First of all, they need some really high temperature water. We're talking like 85 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Drop below that and you're likely to have much less success keeping them alive and well. And they're super sensitive fish, they say, so if you have any fluctuations in that temp, they aren't going to approve, and their way of disapproving is dying. It stresses them out, and they don't like stress. Normal fish, even abnormal fish like my cichlids, don't like stress either, but these Discus really poo-poo the notion that some stress in your life can be a good thing and motivate you to greatness. No, they hate it and have no intention of becoming even 1 iota greater than they already are, because they know they're beautiful. What's there to improve on when you look like me, they think to themselves. So don't stress me out or I'll just die, and then we'll see how you like that. And you won't like it, especially because they're so expensive. Smaller, cheap ones can be around $40 US, and the larger ones can sometimes get up over $200. So you lose one of these gorgeous fish and you feel the loss because they were your pet and possibly your friend. Maybe your only friend if you don't get along with humans like I don't. But your bank account also mourns for your loss. They have other strict requirements too. Corey from the Aquarium Co-op has had some success keeping Discus, and he says you need to keep the pH around 6.8 to 7.6. That's a fairly narrow range, but I think it's actually a bit more alkaline than people think. Water hardness should be medium soft to soft, and you might have some wiggle room slightly in either direction with these parameters, but you gotta be careful, because while they might not be as finicky as their reputation would lead you to believe, they're still super fussy. They have really tiny mouths, so you have to get them smaller pellets that they can eat. And you want to get them good food with good ingredients, which is expensive. But if you have cichlids, you're probably already getting them the good stuff, like Northfin pellets anyway. I use Northfin pellets on all my fish. I don't think they make a Discus specific food, but I'm pretty sure you could use their regular cichlid pellets in the smaller size. They like frozen and live foods too, like bloodworms, but give them too much of this and they'll turn diva on you and start to require it. Just watching those miserable pellets fall by him, I trained on him, but not moving a muscle to get one. Peasant food. So you can only feed them those special foods occasionally. You should also get a taller tank because their bodies are pretty tall. Give them some room to move and not feel cramped. Corey recommends the minimum tank size of 75 gallons, but if I were going to have a Discus tank, which I won't, I'd go with a taller one, like a 65 gallon or a 100 gallon tall. Or I could sell one of my kidneys and get another custom aquarium made. Because these guys are so graceful and like to kind of just float around, you can't have a lot of current in there. Since the water's so warm, you need extra surface agitation without creating more current, which probably means bubbles, which I'm not a big fan of. Reminds me of my tanks when I was a kid and I knew even less than I do now about keeping fish. You may love bubbles, but they look amateurish to me. Just saying. Doesn't mean you're wrong if you use air stones, but you are actually wrong. Another reason I wouldn't want a Discus tank is because you pretty much have to have just that, a Discus tank. You're going to have a very, very short and specific list of possible tank mates. You don't want any fish in there that'll be darting around causing your expensive and sensitive Discus to stress out and die, because that would be bad. You also don't want any aggressive eaters in the tank with them either, because if you do, these Discus will just waste away. And compared to Discus, all fish are aggressive eaters. Now, although these beautiful prima donna fish have such a bad reputation for being so picky and easy to kill, Corey and Ben Ochart have had less of a trying experience keeping them than you would expect. I think Ben was actually surprised at how they aren't so bad after all, but he was nervous at first. They do need you to keep their water nice and clean, and they're more sensitive to dirty water than many other fish. My pH from the tap is about 8.4, which is out of range for their desired pH. And I don't want to be starting a roadie system or worry about chasing the pH. Too much work when I'm already stretched pretty thin as it is. But even though they might not be as bad as people say, I still have reservations about taking that risk. And what about you? I mean, have you kept Discus or know someone who has? And did it seem like they were as difficult to keep as their reputation would lead you to believe? Let me know in the comments. So yeah, I do have my reservations about keeping Discus, especially when I think about the second part, about why I'll never have a Discus tank. Yeah, they're gorgeous, but sometimes beauty just isn't enough for me. I know they'd be shocked to hear it, but I need more than just appearances. That's why I'm not a big fan of angelfish. I started my 180 thinking it would be only angels, but the more and longer I had them, the more I realized these fish are just not that interesting. They're pretty dull. It probably stems from my love affair with Africans and the more aggressive American tank, San Quentin. But I really need some personality in my fish. Since I don't have much of a personality at all, I need to make up for it with my inmates. That's why even though Percy isn't the most gorgeous fish I've ever owned, and he actually looks kind of goofy, it just doesn't matter. It's what's inside that counts. Aw, isn't that a sweet thing to say? But it's true. Fish with lots of character are way more interesting than fish that just sit around looking pretty all day. My space is really limited in my fish house, so I need to be very calculated and specific in selecting the fish I keep. Why would I want to go through the trouble of taking the risk to keep these Discus when I'd probably just be bored with them? I already need to get a bigger tank soon for my black nasties, who have a shit ton more personality and character than any Discus ever had. And I'd rather have a yellow jacket or some other ultra-aggressive cichlids than these Discus as well. So while they're beautiful and precious to many fish keepers out there, I stick to my verdict that I'll never have a Discus tank. Because frankly, Discus really do suck.
All right, fish nerds, I'll see you next time.